Hey, fellow babies, welcome to Pachter Factor Live on SIFTD.net. Hopeful that you are watching this real time as a Patreon patron or a YouTube subscriber. And if so, thank you very, very much for your actual out-of-pocket support. If you are able to do this, please link your Twitch Prime account and your Amazon Prime account, and you can stick it to Amazon. They'll pay for this feed, and you're also getting it real time if you can remember to do that. There are instructions in the show description below, so get on that, please. If you aren't a Prime member, so you can't do it, and you don't have enough money or you don't think it's worth it, we understand. You're getting this a week late, so it's live +7. And I'm happy to have you. Just follow me on Twitter at Michael Pachter. Let's talk about the topic of the week. There's a report out that piracy is costing PC game publishers as much as 20% of revenue, and that's in the first 3 months or so of a PC game release, which is, you know, with a handful of exceptions, that's pretty much the life of a PC game. I mean, you get probably half-life of 1 or 2 months, and then another probably 85% of sales lifetime happen, dollar sales happen in the first 3 months. So that makes sense. How real is it? How big a problem is it? What does it really mean? This isn't new. Those of you who played PC games back in the day when we actually had discs, and I actually think I remember buying my first PC game was on a floppy disk, a real floppy that actually bent. It was EA Sports at the Olympics, I think, and I think it was 1984 Olympics. I bought it in like 86 or so. But that's the first PC game I remember buying. They were copied. People figured out a way to rip them off completely. And I remember reading in the 90s and into the very beginning of the 2000s, piracy was more than 50% of all units. Now, that obviously is global. There's a joke about, you know, putting out anything that was on physical media back in the day, even console games, and they would be selling them on the street corners in China for $1. You know, so people were ripping stuff off, DVDs, music, everything, and selling it. And 50% was probably a pretty good number for the number of copies that were pirated. With music, it was way more than 50%. Everybody used to file share music. And when the internet started allowing you to take, you know, MP3 files, because music is pretty small, it was probably 80-90% for a long time. So Apple fixed that one. The PC guys went to a digital rights management system that required a key code. So, you know, when you would load the floppy, it wouldn't work until you entered a code that was unique to the disks that you had. And that code was a piece of paper inside the box, and it only worked with one game. And so anybody who tried to copy the disk couldn't do it, and they couldn't get a second digital rights with the same code because it was already in use. And PC game manufacturers did a whole lot of really stupid things that alienated consumers. Like, you know, people would get new PCs every year back between probably 1995 and 2010. I probably had 7 PCs. You know, like every 2 years you get a new PC. And if you were into a game like Civilization, you know, something that you would play again and again and again, they would limit your ability to download it to 3 times. I think they went to 5 times, and that pissed people off. They've gotten better on digital rights management, so they're able to manage it a little better, but there is still piracy. So this most recent report is 20% of sales are pirated. And what that really means is, you know, if a game sells, let's say 800,000 units physical meaning legitimate downloads from Steam, that there are 200,000 pirated copies. So 200 over the total, 200 plus 800, 20% of a million are pirated. And the open question is, you know, how much of this is lost sales? How much of it is from people who would never pay full price for the game? How much of it contributes to word of mouth and marketing for the game? Answer: it is cannibalizing sales. As far as like the number of people who would have bought the game anyway, I think it really depends on the piracy price. So let me give you an example. You can look up like a Louis Vuitton or a Chanel handbag, and let's just say they're $2,000. Then do a Google search for fake Chanel handbags, and they're not 2,000, and they're not 1,000, and they're not 500. They're like 50. So if someone buys a copy, and sometimes they're stolen, so they're legit. Sometimes they're really good knockoffs. But if somebody buys a copy for $200, would they have bought one for 2,000? Probably not. And so there's a point where piracy, you're bringing in extra purchasers who would never pay full price. And the people who buy pirated copies know that they're buying pirated copies. And a lot of the pirated copies are free. Like, people just will hack something and post it. So again, I agree with the number. I think digital rights management has taken the percentage of pirated copies from 50% to now 20%. Can they ever get it to zero? No, because however good the digital rights management is, someone will figure out how to crack it, and they do. And so they'll, engineer the copying protocol to wipe out the requirement for code, key code, a key, and people are going to steal because they can. Will people who steal buy at full price? By definition, none of them did. How many people would do it if you couldn't steal it? Probably a quarter, a half of the people who steal. So I'd say the legit impact on purchase is like 5%, maybe 10, but more likely 5. And I think that the right way to deal with that is to manage the inventory as most developers do on Steam, where you regularly discount after a certain amount of time. So, you're not going to pay full price for a 2015 PC game. You're just not. So you'll pay $5 for it after 5 or 6 years, and you'll pay $10 for it after 3 years. You'll pay $20 for it after 2 years, and maybe 30 or 40 after a year. So if you keep the price coming down, it's just like offering movies for rent, for $1. I mean, people will watch Pulp Fiction for $1 because what the heck, they'd rather pay than feel like they're stealing. But they don't want to pay $20 to buy the DVD if there is such a thing anymore, the digital copy. So I don't think it's as serious a problem as it's made out to be. And then remember, this is largely limited to PC. There are thefts of console games, but those are done through the use of emulators, because you can't download a pirated copy to an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Switch. They won't work. I mean, the downloaded copy that you stole is not going to work. And you probably can't even get it onto the hardware because the digital rights management will recognize that it's an unauthorized file, so it just won't work. You can download it to your PC and play it with an emulator, and that goes on with Switch all the time. And Nintendo is pretty good about going after people. And it's, the open question, the extent to which Nintendo has the rights to block stuff that's kind of fallen out of patent. So if you're emulating like the original Game Boy Color game or something, that's probably no longer under patent protection, and they probably can't stop you. If you're emulating the DS or something, maybe they can still stop you. If you're emulating the Switch, for sure they can stop you. So I think that, again, it's not as big a problem, because someone who wants to play a console game really wants to play in their living room on their comfy sofa with their giant screen LED TV, and they're probably not going to download it to a PC just to play something like Grand Theft Auto. Ultimately, does it cost the industry single-digit percentage of sales? Yes, it does. Ultimately, are the people who do this bad people and criminals? Yes, they are. But it's a fact of life. I mean, I guess that's like saying a retailer loses 1 or 2% of their inventory to shoplifting. Yes, that happens. And the people who steal are bad people. And I think anybody who knowingly buys a pirated copy is a bad person. But have I done it? I think I probably have in purses. Like, I'm pretty confident, don't tell my wife, I'm pretty confident that I've bought a knocked off purse before. I remember actually doing one I was at some swap meet, and it looked real to me, and it was something that was like I got it for about 10% of original cost, but it might have been used. I don't know. It was my purse though. But I paid for it, and my wife actually broke the chain and took it into the store, and they fixed it and said they fixed it for free because it was still under warranty. So I think it might have been a real one that was stolen. I'm not really sure, but I shouldn't have bought it and learned my lesson. And now that I'm preaching, I would say, when in doubt about the authenticity of something, don't buy it. Buy the real one. The other thing is, and this is really kind of the gist of the topic, you're not helping to advance the art if you buy a pirated version. The people who build these games that we play, they have payroll. You know, they take risks. They mortgage their houses to make some of these games, and they have a lot of people, artists, you know, and level designers and QA testers and just overall smart people that they have to support. And if you buy a pirated copy, they're not getting the money and they're not helping. So the best thing you can do is buy a game at you know, for a fair price. And obviously, if you can't afford it the day it comes out, wait a year, wait 2 years, wait 3 years, and you can get anything 3 or 4 years after it comes out PC for a discount. I mean, there are some games that will hold their value. You know, my guess is Baldur's Gate 3 will probably hold its value for a couple more years, but they discount pretty well, and Steam has sales all the time. And honestly, the average price of a game on Steam, I'll bet anything, is under $20. They have so much content. So pay up and help the developer to get, you know, to recoup their investment and make a profit so they can afford to bring you Baldur's Gate 4. The ongoing issue really is whether the publishers have to, you know, do more because they're losing so much in profit. And, you know, my sense is that the digital rights management they put in place is kind of intended to keep piracy down to about 5% of sales. I think they're less concerned if they are stolen by people for $1 who would never ever pay $50 for a new game. So I think they're less concerned if the actual number of players is, you know, 20% of total use, so long as the actual cannibalization of full price sales is held to about 5% or less. So if you start to see this 20% ticking up to 25 or 30, publishers will probably get more concerned about it. And what I really expect to happen is, you know, two-factor authentication when you load the game, you know, something where you've got an always-on signal going back and forth. So you have to have an online feature to the game. That's the easiest way to manage digital rights, is that your game has to be always on. Now that's going to really anger PC gamers who want to play single-player, you know, RPG or something. And to be fair, Microsoft actually tried to do that back in, was it 2013? I think they announced with the Xbox One that they were going to do this always-on DRM, and players revolted, and Sony very, very gladly announced we're not doing that. So it's a hard one, because in order to make sure you don't have piracy, that's the easiest thing, is to ping a server every time you load the game. And I think they can keep it more innocuous is the right word, maybe, where you don't see that you're doing that, but the game just won't load if it's fake. And if the game's real, it will. So requiring a connection when you load the game is probably less of an issue for people today, because everybody's PC is always on and is always connected. You know, but we'll find out. I don't think you're going to see a meaningful difference in DRM. There are, as I said, there are less invasive, less intrusive ways to do it, and make sure that, which again is just that little ping. Thank you for joining us on Pachter Factor Live, and a special thanks to our Patreon patrons and our YouTube subscribers. You are keeping us afloat, keeping us alive, keeping Shane, you know, in enough chips to keep this show going. So thank you very much. You're getting it real time if you are paying money for it. And if you're not paying, but you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, or if you are paying in your Amazon Prime, please link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. There are instructions on how to do that in the show description below. It is super easy. You got to do it periodically. So please try to remember to re-up your linkage. That costs you nothing. You are sticking it to Amazon. So please, you've already paid Amazon for this feature, make them pay us, and we will very much deploy that capital to provide better programming for you from Shane and company. We thank you from SIFTD, and we will see you next time.